Welcome to uBook channel. Read and listen to the greatest stories that mankind has ever told. From Iliad to Covid Terror, and other famous classics. Enjoy the best world literatures throughout history.
Covid Terror. Copyright 2021 by Gerry de Cadiz. All rights reserved. A unified Al-Qaeda and Islamic State took advantage of the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic in reinvigorating its jihadist cause for dominance and the re-establishment of a caliphate. Holy Bible, Book of Revelation chapter 6 verse 8. I looked, and behold, an ashen horse, and he who sat on it had the name Death, and Hades was following with him. Authority was given to them over a fourth of the earth, to kill with sword, and with famine, and with pestilence, and by the wild beasts of the earth.
Covid Terror. Chapter 22.
Lake Mead Area, Clark County, Nevada. May 10, 2020. The last element of the 2nd Squad, Babylon Platoon, took his post at the outskirts of a temporary barricade that the Caliphate army had set up before sunrise. Carry on. Status, DEFCON Black. His squad leader radioed back. This is the highest alert level and defensive posture, which informs all mujahideen to be ready for an impending attack, anytime from anywhere. Military technicians were done, with the installation of 2 specially designed weapons, located within the structure, and positioned exactly near the central cavity of the dam. As second in command of the Caliphate Army, Abdul Najib directed the Task Force Hoover Dam and Task Force Lake Mead, to reconfigure as a single combat unit to be labeled as Medina Rifle Company, under the command of Abu Ayman al-Iraqi, and Abu Muslim al-Turkmani as deputy commander. Its formation comprises of the 3 full-strength platoons, with an approximately 135 elite fighters, most of which were veterans in the Iraqi insurgency. The entire force will be deployed within the critical infrastructures of Hoover Dam. Acids to Medina, be advised of approaching joggers. Minsat's imagery analysis is currently downloading. Deploy forces when necessary. Copy, Acids. Sightseers on the go. Commander al-Iraqi acknowledged, informing headquarters, that his snipers were in positions, to counter any long-range threat of land-based forces. Zulfikar Deputy Commander Abdul Najib, warned the combat elements guarding the Hoover Dam, of the incoming enemy units. The live satellite feed through the ACDS, shows a SWAT team in a reconnaissance patrol, via the Hoover Dam access road. A detachment peeled off, and made a run with his vehicle, to the Mike O'Callaghan, Pat Tillman Memorial Bridge. Somebody alighted and positioned right above the Colorado River, to gain a full view of the dam's downstream slope, as well as the powerhouses and valve houses. Medina, bad sight setter over the bridge, probably wants to pee directly to their sacred Colorado. Abdul is familiar with American folklore, having been trained by the Green Berets in Mindanao in the 1990s, before his philosophical convictions led him to the folds of the Abu Sayyaf Group, the Islamic State, East Asia province, based and operating in the Philippines. In the tactical digital map system, a red wedge suddenly popped up, and moved fast towards the dam. A reading from the mission control monitor shows the profile of a reconnaissance drone, an unmanned aerial vehicle used for surveillance, or it could be an unmanned combat aerial vehicle. All units, heads up, a UCAV wants to join the party. It's flying southeast from Las Vegas, at 3 o'clock of your position. The MCM's target profile was downloaded to the integrated command system device of the company commander in the dam. The squad leader at the bunker, designated as +A on map, is becoming restless. Medina, it's getting merrier. Request permission to engage the flyer. Negative. I repeat plus alpha, negative. You're not goddamned Hollywood machos. Avoid unnecessary exposures. Aaron Al-Hassani firmly denied the request. A ghillie tarp was placed over the bunker's windows, to mimic an abandoned rock outcropping. The air defense position must remain unknown for the meantime, and is reserved only for high-value air assets. The commander of Medina Rifle Company instructed his troops to get ready. He advised the Central Command. Acids, joggers within range. Roger. Weapons free. Commander Abdul Najib ordered the Medina Rifle Company to engage henceforth any and all hostile targets, without permission. Captain Rick Flighter unsling the British L96A1 sniper rifle, and lay prone behind the sturdy parapet. He left the car at the foot of the bridge, and had to jog then crawl on deck, to escape being seen by any enemy spotter of his position. Traffic along US Route 93 that crossed the Colorado River, was halted by the sheriffs of Clark and Mojave counties. Viewed through the rifle's Schmidt and Bender PM2 telescopic sight, the view below is one of serene and abandoned structures. Nothing moves. The windows of the powerhouses lining on three sides of the downstream slope, were all blacked out even at mid-morning. Slowly, he pointed his rifle to the direction of the crest, and traced the concave outline. All deserted. Moving on his side, he shifted the telescopic sight to the direction of the Monument Plaza. The base still shows a trace of smoldering objects, definitely the unfortunate flying egg from Boulder City. There at the top, is the ISIS color. The captain reported, to the chief of the Special Weapons and Tactics Bureau in Nevada. But the place is silent as a graveyard, Rick added. Delta 911 to sidekick, sit rep on the ground. The SWAT team, assigned to investigate what happened at the Hoover Dam, signified a situation report. Go ahead, Delta. Captain, mark our location at the rotunda to the visitors center. No sign of human habitation except the high scalar. The squad leader was referring to the dam high scalar monument, a sculpture of a man scaling a rock wall during the dam construction. The SWAT team readied for a reconnaissance in force. Sidekick, we'll go for a tour. That's a green. All eyes ahead for black sand. The first movement that Rick noticed, came from a glint of an exposed weapon. Laterally moving the sight's reticle to adjust the point of aim, and manipulating the elevation turret, he saw a black-cladded figure, crouching behind a post to the right of the building. One shot and in seconds, the figure went limp as a single 7.62 by 51 mm NATO slug, traveling at 850 meters per second, tore through the mask of the target. Another figure near the felled fighter popped his head out, and pushed back lifelessly as another slug hit him in the forehead. The next movements were that of a group of masked men, all in black garments sporting high-powered firearms, surging through the main door to readied positions. Delta, Black Sands at 11 o'clock behind a wall. Expect firestorm. A team of Al-Qaeda ISIS warriors checked the stability of a M249 squad automatic weapon, with several magazines placed on the ground. As Rick fatally hit the gunner on the neck, the other guy realized their exposure to sniping, and pulled back the light machine gun behind a boulder. A staccato of weapons erupted without warning. The SWAT engaged the Caliphate army in a fierce exchange of leads. Taking whatever could serve as a cover, the policemen had to fight off a fully armed group triple their number. It came to a heated exchange of fire from both sides. The opposition is noticeably well coordinated in its movements, and very calculating when attacking. A policeman was hit on the shoulder. In pain, he complained to the squad leader, "Chief, these are not the ragtag butchers that the TV had portrayed." "Focus, trooper. Better mind that bleeding," came the squad leader's advice. The government forces were pinned behind barricades and cars at the parking area. The shifting of position, concealment, and sudden burst of fire. This is what urban warfare is all about. The incessant engagements came into a crescendo, as both groups use almost similar equipment and firearms. The policemen were down to 7, as 4 had taken the brunt of a ferocious attack from the terrorists, in the initial volley, while 1 is immobile with a critical wound. Rick saw a group of heavily armed jihadists, making a hike over the rock to the left of his team. Delta, fall back. Black Sands on your left flank. I repeat, fall back. The captain ordered his team, who is on the verge of being enveloped by an increasing number of opponents. But it was too late. A dozen of fighters arrived from the direction of the dam, and positioned themselves among the concrete security fence on the right. The SWAT troopers cannot make a retreat, as they are now sandwiched in both flanks. The reinforcement that Captain Rick Flighter requested, haven't arrived yet. A little consolation, is a message that a contingent of Army Guard, is on the way. But for how long, the team leader does not know. As he peered in his scope, he saw how one by one, his troops were hit with high-caliber weapons. He kept on shooting every time a black figure showed on scope, while trying to shift his positions from time to time, whenever he's pinpointed by enemy snipers. The terrorists seem to be numerous and very elusive. As the fight wore on, he's getting out of ammunition. The 215 cartridge steel box magazines of the Arctic Warfare rifle were emptied, making him regret that he did not bring any spare. At least, each bullet found its mark. A successive shower of chipped concrete from the traffic barrier, and pinging sparks on the railing, means that enemy snipers focused their efforts on him. He eased inward the rifle, and crawled back with haste, making sure that he's hidden from view behind the bridge parapet. Rick ran the rest of the way off the bridge. 5 meters to his car, he felt a sudden numbness in his left arm. A sniper's bullet tore through the uniform, and penetrated his upper biceps. He dashed inside and with his head low on the dashboard, reversed the car and turned towards Boulder City. The last report he got from his team, was the dying whisper of the SWAT squad leader, a father of 3 young children. "Captain, I don't think I'll make it. Tell our families how we fought, to have the American flag fly again proudly in that pole." "You were implying, General, that these terrorists suddenly burst out from the desert, and captured one of the most critical infrastructures in the U.S. The DHS secretary was fuming, as he castigated on the phone General Denver Atkinson. The satellite image that is shown, on the monitor of the Department of Homeland Security, shows a ghastly and outrageously wicked spectacle. These are bodies of employees, belonging to the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation, who reported to office earlier than expected. The forensic analyst identified the 25 headless civilians, that were laid neatly in front of the visitors center. Easily recognizable because of their uniforms, the mutilated bodies of 11 members of the Nevada SWAT team, were scattered all throughout the parking lot, all of which were headless. Their limbs were cut perfectly flat at the extremities, and placed like traffic cones, along the middle of the Hoover Dam access road. The missing heads were lined like trophies, to the entrance of the building. It was also reported by the Boulder City Army Guard, that their reconnaissance drone was shot down with long firearms, as it passed by the cableway tower. The only video that it was able to take, shows the burning wreckage of the MD-500E chopper, and the ISIS flag fluttering for all the world to see. Secretary Richard Diab cannot believe, that jihadists had freely roamed around the states, effectively organizing in such numbers, and provided themselves with arms. The Homeland Security is mandated by law, to develop and coordinate the implementation of a comprehensive national strategy, to secure the U.S. from terrorist threats or attacks. Its secretary reports directly to the President. With due respect, sir, we are still investigating the ongoing security crisis. Prior to this event, there was never any activity, nor involvement of people, that is connected to the situation that we have in Hoover Dam. The General is just honest to point out, that the failure in domestic security, lies within the DHS office. Having the COVID-19 pandemic in our midst, With thousands of Americans dying every day, this is not a time to be complacent, that terrorists can take advantage of the situation. We will surely have one hell of a day with the president. Secretary Diab shuddered at the thought, knowing the temper of his boss, who is currently preparing himself to take a shot for a second term. The 9/11 attacks served as a lesson for the need to have a specific government office to respond specifically with terrorist attacks or any public disturbances. His role is to coordinate the efforts of the White House to detect, prepare for, prevent, protect against, respond to, and recover from any activities of fanatics or extremists within the country. I assure you, Mr. Secretary, that we will fully get into the matter the soonest time possible. As we speak, a composite company from the Nevada National Guard in Carson City is on its way to retake Hoover Dam. As Chief of the National Guard Bureau, General Atkinson commands the 460,000 Army National Guard and Air National Guard personnel to protect the homeland and to provide combat capabilities to the other military services. We expect an immediate resolution on this matter. Any untoward incident will have a very dire consequence to the people living on those states that rely too much of their water and power from the dam. Secretary Diab also knew that this problem may complicate for the worst. God forbid, but if the media got wind of the Hoover Dam crisis, a lot of questions will be bombarded to the DHS. He will be censured for being inept on matters involving anti-terrorism, border security, immigration and customs, cybersecurity, and disaster prevention and management. Sir, aside from this passport, we also need a recently issued identification card by a government agency in your home country. The immigration officer at the John F. Kennedy International Airport politely asked the man called Rahul Al-Thani to produce an ID card, indicating that he is a legitimate citizen of Qatar. The man in a business suit has a scheduled afternoon flight to Doha. The submitted papers say that he is a sales executive of a Middle Eastern electronics company based in New York. What I have is a U.S. driver's license, Abu Muhammad al-Shimali replied as he handed her the card. He was surprised of this unexpected delay. He is familiar with airport procedures, as he usually helped foreigners travel to fight in Syria. Through his network, the Al-Qaeda ISIS logistics supervised the smuggling, financial transfers and movement of supplies from one part of the globe to another. His documents were forged, based on the latest security features of its issuing agency. When the officer scanned the ID of its magnetic code, her monitor gave a graphic warning that it is invalid for having no proper security code, as issued by the United States Department of Transportation. She counter-checked the passport for its latest digital security encryption. She was alarmed as these are falsified documents. She pushed an emergency buzzer on her desk, and a pair of airport police immediately approached the office cubicle. Mr. Al-Thani, I cannot validate your driver's license. Same also with this passport. Our systems specify that it belongs to somebody else, not you. She glanced at the law enforcers and nodded at Al-Shimali. With the agility of a leopard, the Operation Zulfikar commander of the UN task group jumped to his side, and grabbed the firearm from its holster of the nearest policeman. With a swift motion, he aimed and fired twice the Glock .40 S&W caliber pistol, at the chest of its owner. As he shifted his arm to point the gun at the other police, 3 slugs successively hit his temple, face, and neck that brought him instantly to the floor. The other officer did not hesitate to pull his trigger, and neutralize the terrorist. Fatiha Mejidi tried to call the number of her commander. It's been almost an hour since Abu Muhammad al-Shimali entered Terminal 8 of the JFK International Airport. She agreed earlier to his instruction of being an insurance in case he won't make it through. It is common that U.S. Customs or immigration authorities would just play tricks to trap a victim into acknowledging a forged paper. This usually leads to interrogation and ultimately, imprisonment, if the person cannot find a domestic guarantor. In Plan A, she will know that he successfully boarded the plane, by receiving every 15 minutes a selfie inside the waiting area, on the tarmac, and aboard the plane. Otherwise, if she received 3 successive missed calls, she will proceed with Plan B. The instruction is to make a diversionary attack, just to create chaos near the exit of the departure area, for him to escape and go out from the airport. The worst case scenario is when nothing can be heard from him after an hour. It may be painful, but she will carry out Plan C. Fatiha, meet me at exit. This is not the coded message they agreed upon. It has to be in Darija, the spoken native vernacular of Morocco. Definitely, this is another person posing as Al-Shimali. The implication means that he was either captured or killed. Istishhad, it is. She willed herself to be steady. Militants prefer the term martyrdom operation to suicide attack, as the latter is forbidden under classical Islamic law. Engaging in combat carries with it the risk of getting killed, whereas, martyrdom operation denotes a well-considered action, to die as part of the attack. Acts of istishhad are governed by religious legal rules, associated with armed warfare or military jihad. Fatiha remembered an imam saying these words, during a khutbah, when she was in Afghanistan with her husband and sons. The holy war is a collective obligation on a religious community, when it is endangered or its adherents are subjected to oppression and subjugation by any foreign forces, the wise leader of worshippers in prayer strongly emphasized. But the Khalifa had a different interpretation. According to him, the 21st century calls for a redefinition of our beliefs and principles. The old rules do not apply anymore, he absolved her of the unlikely call of conscience, in deviating from the orthodox line. In our cause, the rules governing the conduct of jihad would include killing women, children, or non-combatants, or leaving cultivated or residential areas damaged. What will I get out of it? She vehemently asked Aaron al-Hassani. You'll become Shaheed, one who dies for your faith. Her later interpretation of jihad includes also resistance against influences of foreign cultures, which debased the conservative way of life of believers. It became her justification of organizing and leading an all-woman unit called the Al-Qaeda Brigade, which was charged with enforcing the Khalifa's interpretation of female modesty, attire, and actuations in their areas of influence. As a martyr, you'll be assured of a place in paradise. These words were drilled in her every day, by Abu Muhammad al-Shimali, as she learned how to assemble a suicide vest. The customized jacket has several pockets, filled with about 20 kilograms of explosive modules. Each segment is securely connected to each other, and networked with copper wires. The entire circuit is attached to a blasting cap, that is used to detonate the entire package. Ma'am, you cannot go beyond this point. An airport police blocked her way to a very crowded waiting area, before entering the departure area, passing through an X-ray security system. Fatiha brushed him aside. Her body senses became focused to the target, the airport lounge, with several thousands of people. In fact, she cannot feel the rough shove of the man trying to push her back. She checked her vest and clasped tightly at the detonator. As she ran towards the center of the lounge, a verse in Quran, chapter 3, Al-Imran, verse 169 to 170, flashed in her mind. Think not of those who are slain in Allah's way as dead. Nay, they live, finding their sustenance in the presence of their Lord, they rejoice in the bounty provided by Allah. And with regard to those left behind, who have not yet joined them, in their bliss, they, martyrs, glory in the fact that on them is no fear, nor have they cause to grieve. Her mind registered people running wildly in all directions. The place became a total chaos. Everybody just wanted to go out from the area. A stampede ensued, with some elderly being trampled underfoot. A lot of screaming in several languages. Fear is registered in everybody's faces. When she arrived at the area where everyone was milling around, she took out the plastic cylindrical electric blasting cap, and checked her explosive vest for the last time. Allahu Akbar! She shouted at the top of her voice, and pulled inward the detonator with all her might. She did it again. Nothing happened. The detonator had gone wrong, or maybe the wiring system. Or perhaps, she forgot to attach a critical loop. She attempted to do it manually, by hot wiring the ignition charge and base charge. But something very hot and metallic, brutally entered her upper body. As she collapsed to the tiled floor, there's a tickling sensation in her left chest. A crimson liquid blossomed in her blouse, as warm blood flowed out rapidly. After a while, Fatiha felt like being carried by a wave, plunging her to an abyss as her vision dimmed, and finally went dark. Her last dying wish is for the 6 RCX cylinders they locked at the hybrid chiller plant to activate and explode, contaminating with coronavirus and ricin, the air that the people will breathe at the United Nations headquarters. We've been doing great, with eliminating the threat of the ISIS monster, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. Just recently, the United States military successfully executed a flawless precision strike that killed the #1 terrorist anywhere in the world, Qasem Soleimani. Yet, here we are being held hostage in our own land, with the prospect of making the 18 million people in the American West die of thirst. The US president never expected of this sudden internal security crisis in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic. For the meantime, he has to keep for himself the information of the CIA director that a high-profile businessman leading a jihadist group is behind the plot of blowing up the dam if certain terms won't be met by the government. The White House Situation Room is in a very sober mood. Uncharacteristically, Mr. Donald Trump kept on pacing the floor, a dark temperament waiting to unleash before the assembled advisors, cabinet members, and Pentagon officers. "Bob, what is your say of all these things?" he demanded from his new national security advisor, Wilbert Cutler. "Sir, the situation at Hoover Dam was reportedly perpetrated by a man named Aaron al-Hassani, an Iraqi immigrant in 2003. He is the president CEO of Al-Hassani Industries based in California, and engages in multi-billion worth of specialized industries, which listed him as part of Forbes' top 50 richest executive. A businessman himself, the president glared at his audience. He wants to put a stake in the dam's operation. It appears that he has something else in mind, Mr. President." Secretary Richard Diab of Homeland Security asserted his position. "What is it then, Dick?" "Sir, the initial report we got on the ground indicated that aside from the dam, the water treatment facilities were initially invaded, but ultimately abandoned by the terrorists, leaving nothing, except the horrid dismembered parts of human remains." Mr. Trump stood in front of the Director of Central Intelligence. "Gene, what is the background of that weirdo leading those freaks?" "Sir, we just declassified his profile. He's part of the military enterprise, Project Yanbaya, that the US government launched during the Afghan Civil War, with the primary intent of discrediting the legitimacy of the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan. A dedicated unit of NATO Special Forces trained him to sow discord in the population and violence among the enemies of the Northern Alliance. CIA Director Gene Ashpen served as the project leader until al-Hassani went rogue in 2001. The biological profile of Aaron al-Hassani is that of Abu Musab al-Zarqawi, founder of the Jama'at al-Tawhid wal-Jihad, which transposed into the Islamic State, the same guy that the Pentagon reported in 2006 to have been terminated with the Hib-Hib bombing in Iraq. Based on his dossier in Langley, efforts of reacquiring him fall to the coordinator, Agent Hot Ice, who successfully tracked and infiltrated his organization in 2014. The president went back to his seat. "I know that some of your people were partying with the Sheikh of the Slaughterers. I am authorizing the Attorney General of the United States to conduct a full and extensive investigation on this matter. Perhaps in exchange for a 7-digit numbered account, these armed terrorists facing our guys in Hoover Dam could have been assisted by US officials to enter our country, and providing them with weapons. General Alexander Leahy immediately catch up with the discussion. He relayed what the chief of the National Guard Bureau conveyed to him earlier. Mr. President, there is a military angle to this crisis. At 900 hours, along the Hoover Dam bypass road in front of the Visitors Center, an armed engagement took place, between a squad of the Nevada SWAT team on a law enforcement mission, against about a company of the so-called Caliphate Army. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff reported the critical situation. He flashed at the interactive whiteboard several pictures snapped from a satellite pass in the morning. The encounter can be discerned in full color: the chopper wreckage, the lined-up headless cadavers, and mutilated bodies of government troopers. That army of extremists comprises of veterans from the defunct Iraqi Republican Guard. It includes a good number of younger fighters, who participated in the series of ISIL offensives in 2014 until recently. In other words, we're dealing here with fanatics, who were battle-hardened, using the best weaponry we have, and familiar with our tactics. How many Americans so far were sacrificed to these beasts? The military's commander-in-chief can't accept that an old enemy sneaked inside the U.S. territory right under his nose. The Bureau of Reclamation confirmed that 25 employees were beheaded, and 30 are believed to be taken hostage within the Hoover power plant. There were 7 personnel from the water treatment facilities, who met also the same fate of getting the blade on their necks. Alex, what are we going to do, just to save whatever honor is left of our armed forces? Mr. Trump concentrated his attention to the Pentagon official. Mr. President, an advance contingent of the National Guard has been ordered to halt at Clark County along Interstate 11 Highway, and wait for augmentation of composite teams from the 75th Ranger Regiment. The attack choppers of the U.S. Marine Corps stationed at Nellis Air Force Base is currently on the move to provide additional muscle and airborne firepower to our forces. The president's temper exploded. I am more interested in how we can expel those monsters from American soil, and propel them back to their God-forsaken sand dunes. Sir, we will commence an inter-service coordinated attack in an hour, by your order. General Alexander Leahy does not want his ass be skewered by this man, no matter if he is the President of the United States. That's fine, General. I am ordering the entire military services, that the next time our spy satellite pass over Lake Mead, it would be the old glory flying back again, on that pole in Hoover Dam. 47 martyred mujahideen of the Caliphate Army. Aaron al-Hassani reacted with incredulity, how 1/3 of his fighters in Hoover Dam was eliminated. Commander al-Iraqi reported that there were several snipers at the bridge. 30 of the casualties were through sniping, while the rest were inflicted by the SWAT troopers. DEP Com Abdul Najib broke the bad news. How can he be fooled? In Minsat's imagery, there's only one dot on the bridge, changing positions from time to time. But Aaron realized that the bridge offered the best view for a sniper to pick any target below in plain view. Amir, the system is ready to broadcast. Ayman Kalimov indicated the video camera that was set up in the Ghurfat Al-Arb for the Khalifa's impending announcement. An hour ago, the communications officer sent an email to the UN Secretary General, the White House, the Pentagon, each embassy of Muslim countries, the European Union headquarters, and all major media outlets, to tune into a major broadcast of what is happening in the US at the moment. Stand by, I have to fix first a serious concern. A mujahid ushered Dr. Guinevere Del Pilar in front of the Khalifa. Though her handcuff was gone, she appeared unkempt due to physical struggle at the chopper, on the way here. My apologies, Doctor. I'm not supposed to treat you this way, knowing how much you've contributed with your knowledge to my project. Aaron al-Hassani motioned for her to sit down in a makeshift military chair. The AI Med pharmaceutical plants in various countries started their manufacturing of Sinovac, the COVID-19 vaccine that she spearheaded in researching and putting into successful clinical trials, until it was approved by the Food and Drug Administration. So, why do you have to cut my outside communications, and forced me to come to this place? She began to regret accepting a contract from this arrogant businessman. I'm only concerned with your association of a man named Sean Gabriel Fitzgerald, whom we found out to be a CIA agent, masquerading as a professor at the United Nations University in Tokyo. As an investor of billions of dollars, I don't like anything to come my way from somebody snooping around my business. We've been friends for some time now, and he's been there in some rough experiences I had gone through. I don't care about your emotional attachment with him. As long as you're in contract with AI Med, I have to take you in custody, to protect you from undesirable influences that may damage the reputation of my company. The Mujahid took back Gwen to an empty room, except for a cot, and a table with assorted food and bottled water. The windows are solidly grilled, and the door is locked from the outside, a perfect prison in a posh resort. Dr. Amira Siddiqui entered the war room after Gwen was gone. She strode to where Aaron is seated, and sat on his lap. For a minute, the two indulged in some sensual touching and kissing. The RCX weapons were properly installed in the target locations. Ayman confirmed that its control through the ACDS is well functioning and ready. She informed Aaron after catching her breath. He did not reply, for his mind is unto something. He thought of how far and difficult he had come to arrive at this juncture in his life. With a simple push of a command button in acids, the world will change. His testing of the ricin in the poison factory in Afghanistan in the 1990s told him that someday, this could be the agent that will avenge what he had been through, before the world had known him to be the sheik of the slaughterers. Indeed, nobody will expect that a multi-billion industrial mogul who has controlling stakes in numerous Wall Street corporations, came from a nomadic Bedouin tribe, who became a street thug at a very young age because of economic distress, and the violence around Zarqa, an industrial town in Jordan where his impoverished family resides. Prior to his engagement with Project Yanbayat, he was a reporter for the newsletter Albonian Almarsis. But a series of events led him to the influence of a Salaf jihadi ideologue, Abu Muhammad al-Maqdisi. The marital relationship of his sisters with Jordanian and Palestinian militants added fuel to his exposure with jihadist elements. But the straw that broke the camel's back was his incarceration in 1992, and numerous bloody maltreatments in the hands of brutal jail guards. What about the Al-Hilal? Aaron impulsively inquired. This is a fail-safe strategy of the Caliphate army. The ricin poisoned and coronavirus contaminated water treatment facilities correspond to the immediate consequence of depriving from drinking water the states of California, Nevada, and Arizona. However, there is a chance that the communities can survive by draining the processing plants and do some decontamination, while the federal government implements an emergency rationing of essential water from other unaffected states. A 5-kiloton warhead was firmly suspended halfway underwater, right to the upstream slope of the dam. Its twin has been encased in the central portion of the power plant, at the downstream slope to effect a dual-punch explosion. The Lady Al-Qaeda broadly smiled, as she gave Aaron another kiss in the lips. The Al-Hilal, or crescent moon, is a component of the Caliphate offensive, which intends to blast the Hoover Dam with 2 W-80 warheads. Considered as his jewels, the nuclear weapons were procured by Aaron in 2018 from the black market, through the Illegals Program network, with the Russian sleeper agents who escaped the Operation Ghost Stories investigations of the FBI, selling the 2 W-80 bombs for $15 million apiece. The Khalifa mused, the Operation Zulfikar will bring back to wasteland the American West, for generations to come. Despite the obvious scholarly and noble appearance, you can still see the monster within. Attorney Stephen Mliner commented harshly on the projected image of Aaron al-Hassani at the digital monitor. Top White House advisors perused an intelligence report about the Sheik of the Slaughterers on a vengeance mission against its former handler. Both the CIA and FBI confirmed that it's the president-CEO of Al-Hassani Industries. It may be devoid of casualties or any substantial damage of infrastructure, but the psychological impact to our people is paramount and lasting. The assistant to the president for policy and international relations criticized, albeit apologetically, any act of the Khalifa that may cause physical harm to the country. The Apir called to the Situation Room the representatives from Homeland Security, Intelligence, and Military to discuss the implications of the announcement from the caliphate leader. Nobody dared not attend to a call from the right hand of the president. It must be a national policy to ban entry to our country of this kind of people. The Apir, who was reportedly have the ears of the country's top executive, has been described as far-right and anti-immigration, becoming the chief architect of the administration's travel ban policy, the reduction of refugees accepted to the United States, and the policy of separating migrant children from their parents. With the COVID-19 pandemic, he hopes to use public health protocols to implement long-term border restrictions. He switched on the TV to a certain channel. The killing of an airport police and the attempted suicide. Bombing at JFK International Airport this morning is being featured. That's what I'm talking about. Because of opening wide our borders, anyone could simply come in, buy some ammonium nitrate and fuel oil, battery, initiator, and switch. You've got an instant improvised explosive device to destroy, incapacitate, harass, distract, or do anything you can fancy of. The door to the room opened, and 2 federal agents came in. After conferring with the chief of staff, they approached where the Apir was sitting. "Mr. Mliner, you need to come with us." A tall and well-muscled FBI agent nudged the presidential advisor. "What's this all about? Is this some kind of a joke?" A look of astonishment is clearly etched in his face. "Sir, this is not a joke. You were implicated with a case of treason." The other agent replied, as he guided the Apir outside the White House, into a waiting staff car. "As presidential appointee, we are giving you the chance to explain and clarify some issues before a formal charge will be filed." The federal agents were surprised when they receive a call from their chief to escort the Apir as soon as possible to FBI headquarters for questioning over a crime of betraying one's country. This is particularly true of the presidential advisor, being part in the ongoing attempt to kill the sovereign people, or an accomplice to terrorist acts that could lead to disruption or overthrow of the United States government.
Thank you for watching. Write in the comments section for your request as to what book, usually from Project Gutenberg, you want us to feature in U-Book channel.
Click like to boost the rating of U-Book channel, make a comment for us for the improvement of our services, and share this video to your friends, with the copyright intact. Please click subscribe, and hit the bell button to be notified of new uploads from U-Book channel.